Welcome, I'm Darren, and today I'm going to be looking at the best card designs of the 1970s. Now, this is not going to include hockey because hockey isn't really a nationwide experience. It started to do that in the 1990s, and it was really in the last 2 decades that hockey has truly had a nationwide stretch. So, for most of the country, hockey was never really embraced, so we really are just going to be looking at the very limited supply of cards that existed in the 1970s for the three main sports. So there was basically only one card set every year for each of the three sports. And I'm not including the Fleer cards of football because those don't quite line up. So this is just going to be basically just the top brands for all of these years. 30 cards to choose from. I'm going to be looking at the top 5. And I want to start this off with an honorable mention of a card that really doesn't belong in this group, but I don't want to do a best of or a worst of without including all three sports. And the only way I can put it in a baseball card set is to say this is the best card design that baseball had, which is 1972. Now, 72, this isn't a very good card design primarily because it is so stinking early 70s. It really is. It looks like something out of a Monty Python sketch or The Point, and the only reason I like it is because it is so garishly early 70s. It's got this big explosion of text of the team name with stars on either side, some bright colors. You look at it and you know exactly when this card was designed. But in a way, it has kind of a campy quality that I do like. So it looks old, it looks like it's a part of its place, and the fact that it basically owned it, that it really sold itself as being this time, that's what I like about the card. So that's why I got to put it in there. While I don't really hate very many of the baseball sets, I don't love any of them from the 1970s. So this was the only card set from baseball that I could actually justify putting in. I was close on 1970, but 72 is the only one I could go with. So as far as the top 5 actually go, I'm going to start off with the 76-77 set. And the reason for this is because this is one of the 3 tall boy cards, and yet it's not a tall boy. It's actually too big for a tall boy. The tall boy cards have been 69-70 and 70-71. They'd been very popular and they were really cool. So in 76-77 they came back out with a card kind of like that. They made it bigger, and it's actually modeled after a 1960s card that baseball had done, not from the main set. It had been a secondary set that they had done. And this card, the only thing it shared with the baseball card was the dimensions of the card. Otherwise, it is designed for that particular time. And in a way, I kind of like the design. In a way, I kind of don't. But what I love about this card is it's so big. It really does look good. It has a big standout quality to it. The problem is, of all the cards that I personally have seen, they're all fuzzy. They're all out of focus. And it's kind of like they had a normal card size image and then they just blew it up to make it bigger. If you're going to have this real estate, take advantage of it. You want to get all that detailing in there, and they didn't. And so it becomes this really big canvas of kind of blurriness, and I don't like that about these cards. And so I want to like these cards. In a way, I like them, and yet I always stop just short because they really did need to own it with the actual card printing process, or at least with the transfer of the image across to this larger format. And it could be that the way they had everything set up was designed for smaller cards, and so they didn't have the ability to transition it over for this one card just for this one year, and they should have. So it's stuck in 5th. It should be higher, but it doesn't quite make it out of there. Now for number 4, I'm going with 70-71. This is one of the tall boys. I love the 69-70 card, but that's a 60s card. And 70-71, that's really when the 70s begin. So I got to go with this one, and I like the card. I don't absolutely love it, but what I like about the card is it is kind of in a way, kind of like the baseball one I talked about. It's garish, it's very bold, it's very much of its time, but unlike the baseball one, which is trying to be cutesy, this is just a really bold statement that just jumps out. It's almost like it's taking a punch at you. There's so much color, and the other cards don't look quite as good, but the Chicago Bulls in this card set, because of those pink clothes that they wear, wow, this is a really, really cool card. It has a very, very vibrant statement. And the extra real estate, in my opinion, is pretty well utilized for these cards. So I don't want it in the top 3, but I do love these cards, and so I'm putting them here at this point. Now for card number 3, I'm going with the 1971-72 set. So this is the next set. And I love this card. I'd like to put it higher. I can't quite justify it, but it feels a bit older, and that's really the reason that I like having it. It has a good color box in the middle. It has some nice old type up on the top with a lot of color. Down the bottom it has some good counterbalancing text. Below it has a player kind of scrunched in there. But I like how the card all fits together. And to me, this is like an incredibly well-designed 1960s card. That's the way I think about it. And so looking at it here in the early 70s, I look and I say, it still looks great. I love this card. There wasn't a lot of great card design at this time. And so this one, to me, really kind of pulls out and makes its own very clear, strong statement. I like that about it. For number 2, I'm going with football. This is the only football set I have in here. Unlike baseball, where the baseball cards tended to be on average very low, not usually terrible, but very low. With football, it's more kind of in the middle. I could have gone with 77, but 1970 is the one that I've really got to go with, because this, kind of like what I just said, it looks more like an incredibly well-designed 1960s card. In fact, when I was putting this together, I forgot to pull one of these cards out as I was analyzing them, and I was trying to figure out what the 70 card was, because in my mind it was, no, that's the 69 card. Well, no, actually, it is the 1970 card. And it's a beautiful card. It has a very old feel to it. Even for 1970, it's almost like it's looking back at an earlier time with some late Victorian kind of feel to it. It's got a big oval in it. It's got this kind of almost a ribbon that comes out with some undulations that give you the feel of older design. It has some bracketing around the oval that all looks nice, but the fact that it's put together in a very, not an elegant way, but in a very formal and well-conceived way, it gives you a very comfortable feeling. It feels at rest. It feels right. And the oval pattern itself is a really good technique in order to create good framing. I like the way they did it. I think that they came up with an idea and they worked with that and sold it. They made it all fit really well. So I love this card. I think it's one of the best cards of both of these decades. And so I'd like to put it at number 1, but for number 1, I got to go back to basketball, and I got to go with 79-80. And the reason for this, it's in a way almost kind of a cheap shot, because this is an unusually modern card for this time. The 79 football card is also one that's a little bit ahead of its time. It's a good card. It's also one that I could have gone with. Really, if you look at the 79 football and you look at the 89 basketball, you'll notice that those two card designs look kind of similar. Not design-wise, but they have a similar feel. And so cards like that and this 79-80 Topps basketball card, they're well enough designed where you could tell that finally the card companies are figuring this stuff out. They're figuring out how to design modern cards, and modern cards in the way that we're used to. I like the detailing in this. And interestingly enough, the All-Star decal, the little circle there, it actually enhances the card. It has a basketball, kind of like the 1970-71 Tall Boy, has that really nice basketball down there with all the text in front of it. Here it has a basketball with kind of a hemispherical ribbon around it. Basically, it's a ribbon that goes around, but it feels almost like it's in orbit with the text around it. The detailing, the three-dimensionality to it, the way that all this stuff works together, it makes a cool, really interesting card that does a great job of working counterpoint to the very busy shots that are in basketball. And I love how it all goes together. So to me, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure. I want to go with a better card design like 1970 football, but I got to say that having all of that intricacy together is what really carries with me. So that's basically what I go with for the top 5 of the 1970s card designs. I really can't go with any of the other cards because I don't feel that any of them hold up. There are a few that are close. I could make a top 10, but it wouldn't be in my heart to make the top 10. The top 5, to me, this is almost pretty bare bones. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this, whether you think that I should have had something else on it, or however you want to take it. If you haven't checked out my other videos, definitely check those out, and thank you very much for watching.